you. Alrighty. Let's see who's here. It's the 18th. Okay. Just make a note so I don't forget. Okay. All right. I'm going to take attendance now. If I mispronounce your name, please correct me so I'll have the correct pronunciation. And also, I'll try to get your names in my head, but I apologize if it takes some time. Eventually, it'll get there. And some people's names will get in there quicker than others, so I apologize for that. But, I try to learn your names along the way. Okay, so let's see who's here. Ms. Balser, Angelina Balser? Balser? No? Uh-oh. First time out! I already lost one. Okay, well, we'll see if she comes later, maybe. Let's see here. Darzbowski, okay. Okay. Is it, Nicholas, is it Citrigno? Yeah. Citrigno's right? Okay. Okay. CJ Clyde? Mr. Clyde, okay. There. James Davey, okay. Well, how do you bring it? It doesn't matter. Alexis, is it Dittrey? Dietrich? Okay. Dietrich. Okay. Taylor Fleming? Taylor Fleming, where are you? There you are. Okay. Samuel Hanley. Hanley, okay. Jasmine Ho. Okay. Sure. Okay. Let's see here. Ryan Holstein. Okay. Alexander Irvin. Okay. Dominic Martin. Yes, no? Seems like a no. Lost another one? Okay. Well, that's 2 less papers I have to grade. Anyways. Allie, is it Montiel or Montiel? Or
Montiel.
Montiel? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Montiel. And Megan Moses. Good. Okay. Madison Owens. Alexandriana Paul. All the way in the back, Miss Paul. All the way in the back. Isaac, is it Poirier? Is that right, Poirier? It's like he's not here. Isaac Poirier? Okay, no? All right. Alrighty, let's see here. Jibril Pratt. Pratt. Okay. Alrighty. Is it now the first name? Is it Abria Purnell?
It's probably
Bria?
It's Abria.
It's Abria?
Abria.
Okay. Abria Purnell, but you like Bria. Bria, okay. But Bria. I will probably still refer to you by your last name, just out of respect. Kirsten Reeser? Ah, there she is, yes. Again, in the back. Kirsten Reeser. Angelo Rosley. Is it Rosley or Rosley? Rosley? That's okay. Grace Scally. Okay. Scott Sullivan. Okay. Brittany Undercuffler. And Thomas Watkins. Okay. Now, Angelina Balser? Okay. Okay, good. Still doing it, so. Yeah, it wasn't finished. So. Okie dokie. Is there anyone whose name I did not call? Yes, miss. Benet? Okay, how do you spell your last name, miss? Oh, hold on. Ooh. You're okay. Penn. Okay, ICK. Okay, Miss Pennick. And your first name is? Benet. BANET. Pennick. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, miss. Okay, how do you spell your last name, miss? Oh, Dennis, sorry. DENNIS. And your first name? Ismaya? Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? So it looks like we might have lost 2, but we picked up 2. So that's the same amount of papers I'm going to have to... oh well. Let's see if we can cull the pack after this. Anyways, remember, ad drop period is still. Anyways, just kidding. Okay, good. So you're here. Hopefully, the syllabus has been discussed on a video on YouTube. So hopefully you took a look at that. If you haven't, then I'd suggest taking a look at it or just read the syllabus. It might be faster just to read the syllabus. But if you want to hear some of my comments about it and how I'm looking at it from my perspective, then you can look at it that way. So look at that. For those of you who are new to the class, I do send. I make a contact group in my Outlook. I try to avoid the Canvas inbox because it's just lousy. And so I'll add your names to the contact group, so you'll start getting emails from me when I send it to the whole class. And so there's certain things that you'll need that I've already sent out, like some links to the YouTube, to the playlist, and some other things I've sent out. So I'll do that. Has anyone been able to get the textbook yet? World Religions, 3rd edition. It is available. Huh?
I have not.
You have not. Did you see it on the bookstore?
I have not.
Okay. No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to know, has anyone gone on the bookstore website? It is there. Okay, Ms.
I ordered it, but it's not ready.
Okay, it's not ready yet. Yeah, I thought so because I didn't realize they had put out a 2nd edition, a 3rd edition. I used the 2nd edition, and they're not printing it anymore. So I had to get the 3rd edition. So that was a little bit, added a little bit time to putting it up on the bookstore's website. So I did scan chapter 1, which is the reading. We're reading for today, I think, but just do it when you can. Okay, there's the same thing with all the readings. Do them when you can. If you can get them done by the time they're supposed to be done, fine. But try to get them done because I might still ask questions about them on the quiz. Don't take too long in doing the readings. But try to get chapter 1 done as soon as you can if you haven't gotten it done yet. But I did send out a copy of chapter 1, a scanned PDF of chapter 1 for the reading. So this is the textbook. This is the only textbook that you'll need. Any other readings for the course are on Canvas, so you can find them there. They're all in alphabetical order, just by the first letters. I didn't, so that you can find them there and search for them there. That's all I wanted to say as kind of a little intro. I think there's anything else. I don't know if anyone, if you have any questions about the course, then you can ask me. That's fine. Okay, so today we're going to start out by asking the question, what is religion? Then I'm going to talk a little bit very quickly about just how is religion studied, okay? And you'll see some of the ways that religion is studied being used in the textbook. And some of these things are also addressed in chapter 1 of the textbook. So you'll have some understanding of that. Since Gwynedd Mercy is a Catholic university, I'll spend a couple classes talking about how the Catholic Church views other religions, because Christianity we'll talk about Christianity. Christianity is a religion in and of itself. How does it view the outside world? And then we'll start jumping into actual religions and talking about that with one of the oldest of the world's religions, which is Hinduism. Okay, and et cetera, and so forth. But I want to start out with asking the question, what is religion? And to do that, I'm going to show a video. Let me just take a little sip of coffee. Well, Mostly coffee. No, I'm. No, yeah, I don't know. The joke never gets old for me. No, it's all coffee. Don't worry about that. Mr. Dunn is perfectly lucid. Anyways, this is a video from several years ago. So just a trigger alert. If you hate Donald Trump, he shows up in it. Okay. But this was something that I thought was a useful springboard for asking the question about religion. And you'll see why after we watch it. But just take a few moments to watch it. I forget how long it is, but
Lost in 742 days since the loss here to Alabama a couple
it's
years
10
ago.
minutes. Okay.
The Tigers in white, purple, and gold haven't trailed the last 25 quarters. Time for the presentation of the colors and our national anthem. We go to public address announcer, Mr. John Magrino.
Please rise and remove your hats as our nation's colors are presented by the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base New Orleans All-Service Color Guard, including members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. Tonight, as we honor our nation, please remain standing and welcome members of the ROTC units from Louisiana State University and Clemson University, joined by the President of the United States and the First Lady. Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome multi-platinum, two-time Grammy Award-winning artist, Louisiana's own Lauren Daigle.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
We are built for this. This is what we do.
Can't skip over this.
We made the title game and
Buckle their chin strap.
Don't have to worry about. Obviously, it's a football game. We don't have to worry about that part of it. See him come out.
Seven Tigers are playing in their third national championship game. 36 Lake Trevor Lawrence. A championship a year ago. 14 guys started in that championship game. They're back.
Well, I know that guy. Doesn't he play for the 49 Jacksonville?
Kirk Hamilton is a Rocky fan. He's talking about Rocky 4. Rocky Balboa's going to beat Ivan Drago in Russia. That's the way he framed the challenge to his team who didn't know who Ivan Drago was.
But he's actually used different Rocky references for different championships in the past, and this one happens to be Rocky 4 on the road.
Burrow leading the LSU captains out. One back, 12 to the coin toss.
Welcome to the 2020 College Football Playoff National Championship game between the Clemson Tigers and the LSU Tigers. Congratulations to both teams for earning the opportunity to compete for the title of national champion. I'm Chris Coit. This is Francisco Villar. We and the remainder of our officiating group are proud to represent the Pac-12 Conference on the field today. Now, a special occasion requires a special coin. On one side of today's coin is the image of the national championship trophy. This is heads. On the other side of the coin is the image of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, and this is tails. Clemson is the designated visiting team. They'll call a toss. Heads or tails?
All right, so with that. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Whoops. Talking about is there a religion? A lot going on here. My question is Visa? Just because I know your name already. No, yeah. I'll leave you. But I'll throw this out for general discussion. But is what you saw religious? Is it portraying a religion? What do you think? This undercut?
In one of my earlier classes, we talked about civic religion. So even in government, there's like higher ups and rituals and traditions that are expected.
Okay. And why are they expected? What's the source of the expectation?
I guess respect for and
Okay. No, that's interesting. First of all, you're referring to another course. Please don't do that. You didn't come here. You understand? I don't expect you to learn. What are you doing here, people? No, God bless you. Thank you for that. Yes. Yeah, civic religion. You're blowing my mind here. Yeah, okay. So what is the source of the civic religion? I mean, yeah, you see a lot of the symbols going on there with the flag being present. You have a figure like the President of the United States, someone like the Pope showing up to your church, the singing of the national anthem. But, all of these things are patriotic, right? Well, what's really going on? I mean, what's going on there? What's the context?
I guess faith and country.
Okay, good. But think about like the actual situation. Think about where they are and what's going to be happening. What's going on?
They're all cheering for the president and the football teams.
Okay, but is the president at a political rally? No, what's he at?
So called.
A football game, a sporting event, right? A sporting event. So what does the American flag, the national anthem, the President of the United States, all this civic religion stuff, what does that have to do with the sporting event? What's the connection? Oh, I agree with you. Not sure. So would you say that it is religion of a kind? And you don't have to keep answering. I don't want to just, yeah, what do you think?
I don't think that's religion. Like, I don't see her like Jesus or God.
Okay.
Like, if anything, like she was right with the Pledge of Allegiance. That's where, like you said, patriotic. It's given more patriotic than religion.
Okie dokie. Well, now they don't say the Pledge of Allegiance in there, but they do,
The national anthem. That's what I'm going to say.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine. No, I that's okay. Though, say that there's no divinity or supreme being present. Yes, really. Is that what you're saying? That God's not mentioned, Jesus isn't mentioned?
Wait, what was your point? Like, what was your question I heard?
Is that what we saw religious? Is what's going on there the practicing of a religion?
I don't think so. I don't see Christianity, and I don't see that. I don't see a form of religion.
But I'm just saying. Didn't you notice the one football player had that black paint, whatever they call that, black smudge stuff? I don't know why they wear it. I thought it was with the sunshine. You keep the sun out of your eyes, and now guys wear it all the time like makeup. But he had it in the form of a cross. Isn't that related to Jesus Christ?
It was a player, you said?
Yeah.
Individually, yeah. But they're just the whole team.
Okay, true. You got me on that one. But I did see a number of the players getting down on their knees and what appeared to be praying. Well, it was after. Were there a group of guys that were all getting down on their knees and singing? I'm assuming they're praying. I'm assuming they just don't have, gas or something. I'm assuming, that's it.
I was going to say patriotic traditions that they're changing.
Okay. Patriotic tradition. But how do you distinguish that from religious traditions?
Where does Jesus? It's nobody like that. It's no superior person that they're like praying to or someone you're giving something respect to. It's just a nation that we have our traditions. It's going on for years. It's about, I don't really feel like it's anything.
No, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
If anything, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Not like that, but it's just getting more praise in America. Like she said, the traditions. It's not praising God. Like, it's not praising Jesus.
Well, what if America's God?
It's not. It's not.
I didn't know America's not the God that these people are worshiping.
Well, if we're looking technical, Jesus was never in America. He was all over. I think it's like 50.
Ask the Mormons about that one.
Not never, but like the initial start. I want to
Mormon says
say
he was.
the initial start. He wasn't in America, so I just feel like it's traditions.
Okay.
But I want to hear more of what you want to say about religion. I missed it. If it's not much you saw, I missed it.
Well, see, I'm not arguing that it is a religion. What I'm asking is to start thinking about how do you recognize religion? Because religion, you'll see in religions have a lot of the same things. You have traditions, you have rituals, you have prayers, you have songs, you have sacred books. I mean, they didn't show, but they have a rule book for the football game. The referees. You have sacred figures. You have people who are authority, like the referees. You have people who dress up in weird outfits, stuff like that. Now, if you look at this, almost immediately you're going to say, oh, it's a sport, right? It's a sport. But how do you know that? How do you know it's not a religion? Because some people seem to take it religiously. I mean, a guy has a Christian symbol on his cheek. You have guys who are kneeling down to something, and you can say it's America, but think about who are people worshiping. As soon as the national anthem is mentioned, you have to stand up, take your hat off. Well, who are you offending if you keep your hat on during the national anthem? Who are you offending? What are you offending? What exists that you're offending? Huh?
I feel like it's just personal opinion affecting rather than a specific simple person.
Okay. So if we had the national anthem and I decided to sit and keep my hat on, no one should be offended, right? Yeah. It's a sign for something else.
A sign for something else, but someone would take that as disrespectfully because when that one football player kneeled, it caused that big uproar and stuff. So yeah, calling that.
So I guess my question is more of a negative question. It's like, how do you know it's not religion? Because I can point to you a whole bunch of things that are going on that seem to be recognizing that are all symbols and customs and all sorts of stuff that could look religious if you push it far enough. And sometimes, there is the mention of God. I mean, a guy plays a football game and then you interview him afterwards. I give all glory to God for winning the game. Give it all to God. Okay, well, what did God have to do with the football game? It's a sporting event. It's not religious. Okay, go
I
ahead.
feel like, but based on what you said with one player with the cross, once again, that's an individual thing, an individual mindset. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you're saying like most people there are not going to say that they're worshiping a God.
I mean, no, I wouldn't say that, but based on what you said, how you said with the one guy, and how, like, obviously religion and God plays a part over there, and then when the other group of men had kneeled or whatever praising someone, like,
Okay. Well, you even have a sacred figure show up. I mentioned like the president showed up. Why does the president of the United States have the national championship? What does his presence mean? Yeah, what does it mean, sir? What does it mean? He's definitely there. And what do the people do when they see the president?
They recognize him as, yeah, they didn't change USA, they recognize him as like the leader of the institutions official they all under. So where was it again? Like is that sure?
I don't know where it was. I forget where they said it was me. Do you think that the President of the United States is equivalent to the United States of America?
No, just a branch up.
So you probably would not chant.
Me personally.
Chant sounds religious. You would not chant USA if you saw the President of the United States.
Not essentially.
No. But they did. A lot of people did. So for them, this man in flesh represents some symbolic entity, the whole country. How? How does one man in his flesh, selected figure, political figure, politics, you recognize as a political figure, how is he not now a religious figure? Because he's now some transcendent being who represents all 50 states in his person. like Jesus represents God. Go ahead.
So I feel like religion, it's more about creation. American, like football, like anything American is more about it's just like patriotism and like the way we live today, not how we were created.
Let me ask you this question, Miss
Owens.
Owens. Good. I'll get it. Miss Owens. Let me give you a hypothetical. How many more people would go to this event? Church or football? You think so? More people will be drawn to that. So, where do you think their God is? Do you think that could be their God? That could be the equivalent of their religion?
I feel like not really, because I feel like when you talk like religion, like you're worshiping God who like created all things.
Okay. You devote your whole life to it.
Just like pretty much like that's how you're supposed to go about it.
Okay.
Also, I feel like just because you decide to go to a sporting event or go to church doesn't mean you're going to have a relationship with God. You don't even know how to talk. You just like do it as entertainment or worship. So, but it doesn't mean you have something that's important. You might just don't see it as important at the time because you want to take this point. That's all.
But let me ask you this. What's the difference between, say, the act of worship you would see at a church and what's going on at that football game?
I feel like I was just gonna say I feel like the focus is different. There's a difference. While you're at church, the focus is solely on Jesus Christ and whatever the word is, the message. However, with the sporting event, yeah, we have a little tradition, whatever they did, and then it's football. It's players who got hurt, who's winning. Like, that's what the focus is on.
Okay.
I just more so about the team. Go on, check with the parents. What's like? What do you think? Church. It's not more so like that. People do things like it's entertainment. It's about who's being taken, who's winning, who's making it happen. Like I feel like it's more based around entertainment. It's not based around religion. Because honestly, not no disrespect, but no one cares. Like no one's thinking about religion when they go to school. Honestly.
Maybe not. But I bet you a lot of people there on Sundays who didn't go to Mass on Sunday. I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't judge. And I will say this, just because you're talking a lot about entertainment, I don't know. Some preachers are pretty entertaining. They're up there with the microphone. Jesus loves you. Jesus saves you. Jesus. Guys on the organ going. They got a whole shtick going, baby. That's entertainment. People are sitting there motivating people. You're sitting there listening to preach. Hallelujah! Yes! Amen! Reverend. That's entertainment, baby. But one seems you recognize immediately as religious. I guess the point might be that the football game's not really transcendent. When the football game's over, it's over. It doesn't affect the whole world. Okay, I guess that would be the difference. That it's a transcendent. Religion deals with transcendent reality, so that you could also say a religious service is over when it's over, but not really, because it affects your whole life, it affects the world, it affects the universe. Whereas whoever won this championship game, no one cares. It doesn't affect the rest of the universe. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I guess in religion, the difference is that the things you're doing, even though there are symbols and traditions and customs, and maybe there's overlap between the social things that we do as well, in politics and in society, the religious stuff matters, as you said, matters more. It has lasting, eternal value. Did you want to say something before? I thought you had your hand up before.
I was just gonna say, I know in Eastern religions, there's more of an emphasis on peace, and there's really no moral
Okay.
going on with that. So I have to say that's the difference between a sporting event and
What different? That there's a moral code in a sporting event, or
there's no really good or evil going on.
In the sporting event?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. All right, so there's no battle going on between good and evil and stuff like that. Oh, Taylor Swift. I just noticed. Anyways, who says there's no good and evil? Anyways, yeah, that's a good point. So there's that binary of good and evil going on in the sporting event. All right, so yeah, we're not going to come to a decision. I will try to give some answer to this question myself for you, but I just wanted to pose that because there are things that we see, and this can go on, in not just a sporting event. We recognize something as politics, we recognize it as sports, but I wanted to just kind of address and get you thinking about how can you immediately recognize that? And the same thing with religion. Because sometimes religion, and this is a question for religious studies scholars, where does religion begin and end? When is it not just like a cultural thing that people do, and then when does it become something specifically religious? And I think that transcendent element, that there's an overarching meaning to religion where it encompasses the whole universe, whereas, say, a sporting event really doesn't. Although it can push the boundaries, I think, because there are some people that can take sporting or sports and even politics and other things, but in this case, sports can take it as if it were a religion. It's their whole life. It's all they think about. It's all they want to see and do and participate in. And then when you throw in this belief system of you have to believe in, which is uniquely American. I mean, you watch like English soccer and stuff. They don't start out with the anthem, not national anthem, but the song that accompanies the King of England. And they don't usually have the monarch show up at the game. Sometimes they do. There's no patriotism. You go out, you start the game. It's clearly a sporting event. There's nothing going on. You don't see guys praying on the field. You don't see guys with religious imagery on their faces. And not just, I mentioned the cross, but even remember years ago with like the NFL, Tim Tebow did this with the quarterback, but other quarterbacks have done with little scriptural references, bright little, Ephesians 5:3, on their faces and stuff like that. So they would do all this. So I'd say transcendence is what we're looking for. But don't quote me on it. We'll talk more about it now. Okay. What is religion? Is there a religion? Does anyone know who this is a picture of? Does anyone know who this is a picture of? Da, 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 da. No? Don't know? He looks like a minister, right? Of some sort, like a religious figure. How do you know?
Because he has, I don't remember what it's called, but like the robes that a priest or a deacon wear.
A stole or something? Yeah. But he's not a policeman or a police officer. Because the uniform's different. Yet they both wear uniforms. But what makes a policeman a policeman? It's because he wears the uniform? Why couldn't he be a religious figure? Dressed up in what if your priest came out for mass one day dressed up like a construction worker or something? Like one of the village people, Yeah, I mean, he is a minister. This is Jim Jones, who is pastor of the People's Temple, and famously known because he eventually, with like 900 of his followers, committed revolutionary suicide, as he described it, down in Guyana, the country of Guyana. They emigrated down there to be away from what they thought was persecution. And he preached he was a very communist and socialistic, Marxist, I guess you could say, in his message, and gained a lot of followers. I mean, you go to his church and he'd have healings, he would heal people. Of course, he'd preach from the Bible, they would sing hymns, people would jump around and get all excited and all that sort of stuff. And he was the Reverend Jim Jones, yet the dude was an atheist. He didn't believe in God. And he was open about it. I'm an atheist. He didn't believe in the Bible at all. He believed in it as using as a tool and using religion as a tool to preach his Marxist communist message. Okay? And his followers knew he was an atheist. So it was all like a sham. He was using all of the shtick and all of the accoutrements, you might say, of religion to preach his own political message. It was a political message. It wasn't a religious message at all. So that, the question of, well, what is religion then? Because he was not a religious character, but he certainly looks like a religious figure. What is religion? How do you know? Whoops. Scholars aren't sure. You want to ask the eggheads, they're not totally sure. Many religious studies scholars nowadays are unsure what religion is or whether defining it is even possible, which kind of spells the death knell for religious studies departments in universities and colleges, because why are they there? Biologists know what biology is if you ask them. Historians know what history is, but you ask a religious studies scholar and you get like 50 different explanations or no explanation. And so you have the religious studies scholar, famous religious studies scholar, Jonathan Z. Smith, Jonathan Z. Smith, who in his book Imagining Religion, written in 1982, says that religion is just a category that was created by the Modern Western Academy. Academy is just a fancy term for other, scholars in colleges and universities, to classify and analyze discrete cultural artifacts, data from cultures of human existence, but really it has no existence of its own. Which begs the question, do you then need a religious studies department at your university? Why are you giving a budget to it? Why not just collapse it into the cultural anthropology department? If all religion is just data from culture that happens to be about supernatural beings. Then you have someone like Paul Meyer, who I used these two things I used as a textbook. I used this early on when I taught religion, stuff like that. And I use that later. I don't use them anymore because I just didn't find. Well, I might use religious study, the Introduction to Religious Studies for the Introduction to Religious Studies course, but not for world religions. And so you have Paul Meyer, who's the editor of this book, Introduction to Religious Studies, this textbook that says that religious studies is more a study of human activities that we call religious. Or it's a study of the scholar's own self-consciousness, their preconceptions or biases about what religion is, what I think religion is. So as I, as a Christian approaching the world, see everything as a nail, everything's like Christianity, Christianity has gods, so I look for gods. Christianity has scriptures, sacred writings, so I look for sacred writings, even if the religion doesn't necessarily fit that mold. And Meyer says that no definition of religion will be given in his textbook, nor will it even be encouraged. Well, thank you, that's very helpful. And then the editors of the textbook Patterns of Religion state that there is no such thing as religion in general. And I think this is crazy in a way. This is not helpful to your field of study, and religious studies is a field of study, because how can you write books on religious studies or religion? You see, it's in the name of their books, and then say at the outset that you won't define it, and it doesn't really exist. Might as well be writing textbooks about Batman then, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Something I'm interested in. Save me some time. Why are you wasting my time? But I would argue that, on the contrary, I would say that just because a category was created to identify something does not mean there wasn't something there to identify in the first place. That there really was a perception that there is something here. There's the presence of something, even if it's like, okay, now let's give a word to it. What do we call this? So, for example, musicology, the study of music. Write this on the board. Just like biology studies life, musicology studies music. Well, there's always been, as far as we know, music in human cultures. Excuse me. I got the long COVID, man. Got COVID like 2 years ago, and my nose has been running ever since. Even though I got vaccinated 3 times. Anyways, Just musicology is still a largely modern, Western invented category. Okay, but no one argues that music doesn't exist, that it only exists as an academic reality, or that it can't be really defined. Of course, people can define what music is. You know? It might not be easy, but you can do it, and you recognize it when you see it. Those are the presence of something, right? So I would say, on the contrary, the definitions are good things. The American philosopher Frederick Farrell. I don't think I put him on the. I'll get to that in a second. Right. Frederick Farrell, American philosopher. Farrell. He died in 2013. Reminds us that definitions are merely tools. They're tools, okay? They're not the end-all and be-all, but they are tools that bring order to linguistic and conceptual behavior, to the way we talk about things and to the way we think about things. A definition brings order, consistency, and clarity to our unreflective possible confusion on what something is. There's a famous quote from this man called St. Augustine of Hippo. Hippo is, I don't have a map. I'll get a map here. Hold on a second here. Yeah, whatever. Leave me alone. Yeah. Ah! Got it. Leave me alone. I hate it when they bother you. That's what I want. And somehow it knows where we are. Spooky. Okay, so we go over across the Atlantic Ocean to northern Africa. And remember correctly, Hippo, the city of Hippo, that he was a bishop. He was a religious leader in the Christian church in the 5th century AD. And you can see in this area, I think of Algeria, the modern country of Algeria is where he was bishop of. And he made a famous statement. Would anyone like to read the statement or read it off the PowerPoint? Or anybody? Miss, what's your last name, Miss? Yeah. Pennick. Okay, good. Yeah, go ahead, Miss Pennick.
The middle part?
The whole thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
For what is time? Who can easily and briefly explain it? Who even in thought can comprehend it? So what in speaking do you refer to word? Familiarly.
Good. That's okay.
And knowingly in time. And certainly we understand when we speak of it, we understand also when we hear it spoken of by us. What then is time? No one asks me to find it. If I wish to explain to them,
okay. And you can find this in his work called The Confessions, which people who study literature consider the first evidence of an autobiography written by somebody that we know of. So his Confessions, and the punchline is, the point of it is that last statement. If you ask me what time is, I know what it is. But if you ask me to explain what it is, all of a sudden I don't seem to know what it is. It's difficult to explain it. I think it happens with a lot of things. If I ask you to define for me what is color, what is it? I mean, you know it. You immediately recognize it if it's shown to you. But if you had to define it and sit down and define it, that takes some thought. Even though we know that time exists and know what it is when someone speaks of it, when asked to think about it and define it, it becomes hard suddenly. But that doesn't mean that no definition is possible or that it's just a word without meaning. And I would say the same thing applies to religion. My first point would be that definitions are good things. And what is a definition, Ms. Reeser? A definition, which comes from the Latin word definio, to set a limit or a boundary. Finis in Latin means a limit or an end, a boundary of some sort. You define something, you're setting the boundaries of what it is. And so a definition does that, explains the meaning of a word or term. Oh, I repeated that. So definition is a good thing. I think I made that point already. And that definition of religion is possible. Religion exists. I mean, we recognize it. I mean, look, here's people making a puja, which is a form of offering to, it's Ganesh because it has an elephant head. So it's the god Ganesh. In the middle, you have the Pope ordaining a man a priest. But you can tell, even if you don't know it's the Pope, if you don't know it's the religion of Christianity, you know it's not a politician doing something. You know it's not a football player, a baseball player, or something like that. You know it's some kind of religious figure. And then in the other picture you have, this is from Japan. It's of a ceremony called the Chinowa Kuguri, where people walk through a grass hoop. What is it? Chinowa Kuguri. They walk through a grass hoop in the form of a figure 8, and it's meant to purify them for the year. The purification ceremony. And it's done in the Japanese religion of Shinto, which is the native religion of Japan. So you see there are Shinto priests. Shinto priests. People walking through the hoop. These are all, we look at them and like, it's obviously not sports, it's not politics, it's not economics, it's not all these, it's not music, it's not art. But it is, we can say, that's obviously religion. So it exists. Many human cultures recognize, without even necessarily naming it, as we'll find, that there seem to be certain human ideas and activities that resemble each other. They have a family resemblance or a network of overlapping similarities. Many, if not most, human cultures recognize some kind of transcendent, often invisible reality or realm or principle or force, whatever you want to call it, in the universe that interacts with and controls life. I say many of them because not all. I mean, you'll find religions, that are very physicalistic and materialistic. They kind of regard the supernatural as a form of matter, like Jainism from India, and some native religions. You'll find that are very kind of this worldly focused. They might not have a concept of an afterlife or whatever, but they still have this kind of idea of transcendence. Because I remember I lived in Papua New Guinea for 9 months, and they had it's a very mountainous country, and for up until I think the 1920s or 1930s, when the Australians discovered gold, they didn't realize that there were millions of people living in the valleys between these mountains. Didn't know. And there's something like 700 to 800 different languages and cultures that developed. It's very diverse. You want diversity, go to Papua New Guinea. But what's interesting is, the mountain people stayed in the mountains. They didn't. It's a big island, is Papua New Guinea, and they didn't realize that there was an ocean. They didn't necessarily have conceptions of an afterlife or maybe gods and goddesses, but the world for them was what was infinite. They thought the mountains went on forever. They didn't ever end because that's all they could see. They couldn't conceive of anything beyond that. So even when you have maybe a culture that is, doesn't have that doesn't have, say, gods and goddesses, or does not, have a view of an afterlife or supernatural realm, transcendence is still there. This overarching, all-encompassing idea which defines the whole reality for them. In this case, it would be their belief that just the physical world they saw was infinite, because they couldn't see beyond the horizon to see what was beyond them. So transcendence, this idea of transcendence, the state of extending above or beyond something else. From the Latin words trans, which means across, like a transatlantic flight is a plane that flies across the Atlantic Ocean, and scando in Latin means to climb or ascend. You put them together and it means to step or pass over something, to surpass or exceed. To transcend. we find this reality defined differently, but we seem to find somewhat of the same overlapping reality that will come to be called religion. So, for example, let's just start. We have to start somewhere else. So I'll start with the ancient Greek culture. And the ancient Greeks spoke about theos, which comes from the word theos, which means God. Theos means divine or godly. Theos means God. So something related to the gods or the realm of the divine. So in the sense of all those things that are related to or connected to the gods, in their worship and their life and stuff like that. They also use the word threskeia. And yeah, the little line over the E is necessary in transcribing Greek characters because it's a different Greek letter. Anyone who's been in a fraternity or sorority and knows the Greek alphabet knows that this is the letter eta. Then there's a short E, which is epsilon. And there's a long O, omega, O, a long O, and then there's a short O, omicron, O. So you write a line over it just to indicate that it's the long E or the long O. And threskeia means worship or devotion. Well, what are you worshiping? Of course, the implication again is some divine being. So we see again that connection to gods or these supernatural entities. In places like India in the East in Asia or Southern Asia, India, and their ancient language, which is called Sanskrit, which is related to the Greek language, actually. It's part of a large language family called Indo-European. It stretches from India to Ireland, all the way over to Ireland. A bunch of related languages, a family of languages. They say dharma. They speak of that, which will come back to us when we study Hinduism. It'll come back to us when we study Buddhism. And Sanskrit, and it's related to the Latin word firmus, firm, firm, and has that kind of same idea of something that is supportive. Dharma is what supports the cosmos, the universe, which makes the cosmos of the universe possible. It establishes or founds the universe. Dharma. It is that ultimate principle. But Dharma can be used in India and the Indian religions in a very broad way. You can have, and I give some of those here, generally it can mean morality, the way you act, ethics. It can mean virtue, correct action, duty. It can mean right conduct in life. So you can see kind of there's a little thread going through here. It's your conduct, how you're doing things, And dharma and karma are kind of related ideas because as you disrupt dharma, then you can have bad karma. You can have bad effects from how you are not living the dharma if you're disrupting it. Generally, dharma means following one's duties of the duties one has in your position in life or in the community. So from an Indian perspective, from a traditional Indian perspective, cultural perspective, even a religious perspective, you are now in the stage of your life where you are students, and that's defined as a stage in life in the Indian system. And so your dharma is to be a student, to be the best student you can be. After you're a student, I believe, then you become a householder, where if you're a man, you marry and you have children, and if you're a woman, you become a wife and you serve the man. I hate to tell you, but that's just the traditional view of the religion. But anyways, and then after that, once you're a householder and you've established your house, and the householder's job is to make a lot of money and be successful. After that, you become a renouncer. You kind of move out to the forest and you spend all your time studying religious texts. And if you're a man, you kind of put your wife away somewhere and she doesn't really accompany you. But that's what you're supposed to do. So your dharma now is to be a student. And so to not do that would be a bad thing. You'd be disrupting the dharma. It's your position in life. And we'll talk more about dharma when we talk about Hinduism. But dharma also includes your duties, not just to other human beings and to yourself, your position in life, but your position also as an entity, a being of a lower form, because there are higher entities who are called gods. And some of the gods are good gods, and some of the gods are bad gods, which we might call demons, but they still have to be worshipped. So you have duties, a dharma to the gods, to the demons, to the other spirits that exist, especially in the right performance of ritual offerings, making offerings, flowers. Used to be an animal sacrifice in Hinduism, but they don't do that anymore for the most part. Mainly it's offerings of food and fruits and flowers and stuff like that, fire. So then dharma is not so much a cultural thing, like you're a student, that's more of a cultural thing. Then it starts becoming religious. You know, you have now a duty to maybe Ganesh, who is the god, the patron god of education and knowledge, you might go to a shrine to offer puja, offer offerings and worship to Ganesh so that you do well in your dharma as a student. Then it becomes religious, it seems, because a god enters in. In a lot of the Eastern religions, I should say, excuse me, not Eastern, because India is East as well, but the Eastern, I guess you call them South Asia and Eastern Asia, the Eastern religions in general, like Taoism or Taoism, they speak of the Tao, but you'll also see it spelled Tao with a T, but it's supposed to be pronounced Tao. The word itself simply means a roadway, a path that you follow. That's all it means in its simplest meaning. But this idea of Tao, you'll find not just in China, even though it's a Chinese word, you'll find it in Japan. Shinto, To comes from Tao in Chinese. It means the way of the spirits or the way of the gods. Korea, you'll find it used in Korea, etc. So it just means a pathway, but in its broader sense, it means any kind of principle, any kind of guiding principle or guide for life and how to exist in the universe. Specifically, Tao is how humans are to behave, again, within the realm and the order of being. The gods come first, then spirits, then each other, humans, so that's your ethics. But Tao can also mean in a generalized way, the way, and here's a connection with Dharma, the way that nature or the universe is meant to work. So you don't want to disrupt the Tao. So, for example, in a religion like Taoism, which is really, chock full of magic and stuff and all sorts of weird rites. I shouldn't say weird, that's judgmental, I apologize. They're weird to me. But maybe they're not weird at all. Anyways, but all sorts of interesting things. Some of them unusual. Okay, God bless. Why do they do these things? The Taoist priests do these things because they're trying to control the natural balance of the universe. Make sure that the universe is balanced and to live their life in balance with the universe. So oftentimes you'll find Taoist shrines in forests and places like that. They're just and they don't cut down the whole forest to build the shrine. They try to integrate it into the natural world to show that balance and stuff like that. The Tao, you don't want to disrupt the Tao. Shinto means way of the spirit. Shen means a spirit, not a god, but a spirit. In other words, Tao is the way things are, the way they're supposed to be. In Christianity, you could call that the natural law, right, Ms. Reeser? Natural law. All right. What are you doing? Watching a cat playing the piano?
No.
I got a great video of cats attacking babies. Maybe I'll show it one day. Anyways, no baby gets hurt in the video, but it's just when a cat goes up against a baby, who will win? The Romans, going back to the West, in Latin spoke about religio. And so here we get to our word religion. I don't know if bowl haircuts were really popular in Rome in the ancient world, but there you go. It's like, okay. Here you go, my friend. A bowl haircut for you. Anyway, religio. Religio comes from the two Latin words, re, which means to do something again, but the root of it is lego, to, like in English, link, to link something, to bind together. Bind. Religio is something that binds together. I should say, yes, miss. Oh, okay, thank you. That's fine. Whatchamacallit. I should say as a little offhand comment that, there are a couple explanations about what religion means. We don't exactly know 100% for sure what the word means or where it comes from. It was just used. And so, this is the best theory. Even in the ancient world, people who spoke Latin as their own language didn't know the etymology of it, didn't know where it actually came from. So some people thought it came from the word lego, which means to reread something. And others thought that it came from, what was the third? Legare. No, this is legare. What are you talking about? I forget the third explanation, but the one that's the most common and seems to make sense is this binding together, that religion is something that binds the culture and the people together in their relationships with themselves and with the gods. What binds together are the familial spirits. Each family had its own spirits, each household that they honored, which were called and also their ancestors, the people that came before them. Oh, you see that a lot in a lot of world religions, that you have to honor the ancestors for good or for bad, because for good because you love them and you want to honor them, for bad because they might come back to haunt you. The Romans called these the lares and the penates. Lares et penates, the family spirits and the ancestors. See this in I remember I was watching this anthropologist. He was a linguistic anthropologist, and he studies languages, and he was studying the idea of language death, how languages die out. And he went to Papua New Guinea, so I watched his book talk on C-SPAN about a book he wrote. And it was fascinating because, and remember, he was there only within the last maybe 10 years, in the 2000s. Papua New Guinea is a fascinating place. I mean, because the people never had a development of their society or culture, so they were literally Stone Age until they were discovered in the 30s by the Australians. They never developed ironworking of any sort. They'd never seen iron or bronze or anything like that. Everything was wood and stone that they had to work with. And of course, I'd never seen people who were other colors other than them. And they all looked like Africans, by the way. They all looked, so genetically, they're people migrated out of Africa. They migrated all the way over to Papua New Guinea. So they don't look Asian at all, even though they're in that region. They look like people who are from sub-Saharan Africa. It's a fascinating place. But anyways, the guy goes to northern Papua New Guinea. He goes to this little village to study the death of this local language. And the people, they didn't see white people very much. There was a white guy. I think he was Swedish. So they had to have a town meeting to figure out what he was. They weren't sure what he was. And what they finally came up with after discussion was that because he was white, he must be a corpse. He must have been dead. Because that's what happens when you die. Your blood, your color drains and whatever. And so it must have been an ancestor who had come back to haunt them. But they weren't sure which one. And they finally figured out it must have been some little kid who died a few weeks before and stuff like that. The fact, so you see this, you have to honor, that's one reason you honor the ancestors, because you don't, in some cultures, you don't want them to come back. That's not a good thing. But it's not just about your local ancestors, say the Lares and Penates of your family, also the local gods of your town, but what binds you are the gods of nation and the empire, because the Romans had an empire. And so that was part of religio. So in this sense, and I'll end on this point, I won't finish everything today, I'll come back to it in the next class, which is okay. Sometimes I talk more than I want to, but that's why I try to give myself some leeway. This is something to remember. This is probably what scholars like Jonathan Z. Smith mean by that religious studies scholars kind of created the term religion and applied it to religions. all of these cultures would not have, even though they had these words and these ideas, would not have understood a difference between their daily life and religion. It was all religious. The spirits and the gods were part of every moment of the day and everything that you did. And so religion binded, for example, in the case of the Romans, religion bound everything that happened. Okay, from politics to economics to how you to everything. So it wasn't like, okay, there's one day of the week you go and you worship your God, and the rest of the day of the week you're going to school or you're going to your business. Okay, every day was that. Everything was governed by that. Okay, so the main point to take away as just a final point is that these human ideas that I've just gone over, whatever the terminology, describe the existence of something. So I would say that it's not just a creation of the modern academy. Around this something, humans have developed a group of ideas and activities so that they can understand it, and then they also, most importantly, interact with it, have a relationship with it. Okay, and that's it. God bless you all. I'll see you next week, and we'll finish up on this. You're welcome. Have a good day. Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Have a good weekend. Thank you. Okay. Whoops. Turn this off. Where are we here? Give me 1 second. I'll be right with you. Just trying to turn this off. Hold on a second here. Get this out of the way.
Have a good weekend, Professor.
You too. Thank you, sir.